Resident Evil The Final Chapter is the final movie in this Resident Evil movie series, where the T-virus unleashed by the Umbrella Corporation has spread to every corner of the globe, infesting the planet with all sorts of deadly monsters. Now, Milla Jovovich's Alice has one last chance mission, which is to storm the company's headquarters, find the antivirus, and get rid of the monsters once and for all. But Umbrella is not going to make it easy, and Alice and friends find themselves fighting the final battle that will determine the future of mankind. So, going back to the Hive, from way back in the first Resident Evil movie, up against the same Red Queen AI and the creator of Alice. Now, on paper, it sounds really awesome, right? Right? But the way they executed it was utterly terrible. Honestly, I don't know where to start because I almost have no positives about this movie. The negatives just overwhelm the positives. I don't even think there is any positives or there are any. One of my main gripes I have with this movie is that it starts off almost completely from scratch. It just feels like a big disconnect from the end of the last movie, Resident Evil Retribution, and the start of this movie. Almost it's the next movie. Like there's something missing. That there's an extra movie that I thought I missed between Resident Evil Retribution and Resident Evil The Final Chapter. Now this movie introduces us to a lot of the new characters, most of them which we really don't care about, and then they try to make it really emotional when something happens to them. What the fuck? We just got to see one interaction between them and Alice this whole entire movie, and maybe more than one, but you get the point. But where's Jill Valentine? Where's Ada Wong? Where's Leon? And what happened between Alice and Albert Wesker? There's literally no mention to any of them at all, except the fact that, something happened between Wesker and Alice that was cut from the movie, Wesker betrayed them or something, but there was no mention to the other characters. In fact, I had to search it up, and it said that someone said that they were killed off screen. The previous film just set up this film so nicely, but then we just don't get to see what happens. It just feels like they threw away part of the script or something. Now, another problem I have with this movie was with the editing, and I mean, we've seen this time and time again. It's like my boy Jackie Chan has always said in many of his interviews.
Like an American movie, you can see there's a lot of movement. When the camera angle movement, that means the actor, they don't know how to fight. I never moved my camera. Always steady, wide angle.
In all of his movies, they're mostly just one shots. So you get to see all the action, all the stunts and sequences, and it looks very real. But in a lot of American movies, all they do is just cut, and you barely just see any of the action. And that's what we see here. I mean, man, this movie was an eyesore to watch. Every time there was an action sequence, it was just cut 100 times. And the environment was very bland, grayish, brownish, and kind of dark as well. So it made it very hard to see what the hell was even happening. One thing I was looking forward to seeing was the mass amount of not only zombies, but the really infected monsters that were, damaged by the T-virus the most, and the heavily mutated ones, I guess you could say. But for the most part in this movie, it was just mindless and senseless zombie bashing, which kind of makes sense because it's like the end of the world, right? But I mean, we've seen this time and time again, so at this point it's kind of boring. And like I said, it was kind of dark, and it would just cut back and forth, so it was really hard to tell what was happening anyway. But there was one scene where it was like water that was splashing downwards in a building, a tall circular structural building, and they were lit the water on fire and then caused a really huge explosion towards the bottom. And you know what? I don't know about the logics of that, but that kind of made up for it because it was pretty fucking cool. In this movie, there's a huge focus on story, and mostly between Alice and Alexander Isaacs and his clones, which, I mean, you know what? The story, it kind of made sense, albeit it was a bit hard to follow and confusing at times. Like, the film was very confusing, especially towards the end and with the Alexander Isaacs clones that I just didn't know what the fuck was happening at one point. And also, there was one point where Alice could have killed him very easily, but she chose not to, for the sake of the film, and so it didn't end straight away. But, who knows, maybe that Alexander Isaacs that she almost killed was in fact a clone. We'll never know. That's why I say these films are kind of confusing at times. Ultimately, this movie was just pretty terrible and made the previous movie, Resident Evil Retribution, look really fucking good. I'm going to give Resident Evil, the final chapter, a D. Now, I don't know what I thought about the previous Resident Evil movies, like before Retribution, when I first reviewed them, like a little over 2 years ago. I don't remember too much because that's when I saw them last, but I don't think I necessarily hated them. I think I enjoyed the first one a lot more than the others. But I would have to say that this was probably one of the worst in the series, I think. Because I just can't find any positives from it, honestly. Like, most of the negatives with the cutting, the editing back and forth, and how it fucking, like, just didn't live up to my expectations from, like, the previous film's ending, you know, what it could have led to. But I am looking very forward to the new Resident Evil reboot coming out, the first movie coming out later this year, which has Kay Scodelario as Claire Redfield. Whew. So I am looking forward to what they do with that, and hopefully it won't be as bad as these movies. But anyway, guys, thanks so much for watching. Let me know what you think down below. Like and sub if you enjoyed, and as always, feel free to check out any of my previous videos. Until next time.